The holiday season is definitely knocking on our doorstep. And I know while many of us look forward to the holidays and time to spend with family and friends, we also can agree that sometimes there are definitely some personalities that are a little bit difficult to be around. There's conversations that really you don't want to be a part of, or there's some sort of trigger that inevitably happens and it leads to overwhelm and it robs you of any joy or peace that you're trying to hold on to in the chaos of all the holidays. And so, what I want to offer you up in today's episode is how to create a Holy Headspace holiday edition. So, we're really going to be able to dive into what it looks like to control what we can control, to let go of and surrender what we need to surrender, and then how to set some healthy boundaries so you can navigate the holidays, really being able to focus on what is most important and doing it in a way that is peace filled and joyful for you. Welcome to the Nourish to Bloom podcast, where your faith meets your health. I'm your host, Kara Trakta, a registered dietitian and certified Catholic coach, and I'm here to help you cultivate a deeper connection with your body, your spirit, and the nourishment that sustains them both. In a world filled with noise and confusion about food, health, and body image, this podcast offers truth and healing from a Christ-centered perspective. Together, we'll untangle the deep roots of diet culture and discover what it means to truly care for ourselves through joyful nourishment of mind, body, and soul. We're here to dive into the transformative power of intuitive eating coupled with the rich teachings of our Christian faith. With every episode, I'll be cheering you on, offering insights, inspiration, and practical tools to help you heal your relationship with food and embrace the beauty of your body as a temple of the Holy Spirit, with confidence and courage that can only be found in Christ. Join me as we journey together towards a more holistic approach to wellness, one that honors the wisdom of your body as God's creation, the teachings of our faith, and the unique purpose you're called to fulfill. You were made to bloom, to come into full beauty and health in order to bear good fruit for the Lord with your life. So if you're ready to nourish your body, feed your soul, and bloom into the best version of yourself, then you're in the right place, and I'm so happy you're here. Welcome to Nourish to Bloom, where every day is a sacred invitation to thrive. Hey there, welcome back to the Nourish to Bloom podcast. So happy to be spending some time here with you this week. So I kind of had this other podcast planned, and I'm really excited about it. We're actually going to dive into it starting next week. And it's really this idea of writing the next chapter of your sacred story. And I'm so excited to bring it to you. It's something that I feel like the Lord has been putting on my heart for the last few months, and how I think it's a perfect time to really dig into that around Advent and the beginning of a new year, and really letting the Christmas story that began with Mary's yes to the Lord really be something that we can lean into as we start to look at this next year, as we start to really figure out maybe what's next for you. What is the next thing you're working on? But before we got into that, I had this thought of, Thanksgiving is coming up, and I know that we talked a little bit about Thanksgiving and eating and Christmas and all the holidays and all the eating that can come with that. But when we're looking at this whole person wellness, this idea of Christ-centered wellness, looking at and seeing the whole woman, I mean, I would be silly not to talk about the emotional and mental overwhelm that we as women can experience during the holidays with everything that we are trying to do and navigate. And yeah. So what I really thought would be great, and this is kind of again the Lord speaking to me in the moment, was I really want to talk about how we can focus on having that holy headspace during the holiday season. What that looks like, some tools that you can use, some reminders that I think we all need on being able to navigate the holidays, do all the things, the wonderful things that we do as mom, and still be able to, one, enjoy the holidays, and two, come out of it still feeling peaceful. That we are able to really focus on what the holidays are about, that we are able to enjoy time with friends and family, even though those situations can be emotionally and mentally draining and exhausting, but just really be able to go through the holidays in a healthy way, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And I think, we've talked about the physical piece. So I really want to spend today talking about kind of that mental and emotional health and well-being through the holiday season. Because, and this is kind of really triggered by a situation that I went through last week, and replaying the situation and figuring out, could I have done anything differently? Should I have done anything differently? Did I handle it in the best way? And honestly, really being able to leave the situation, I mean, honestly, a little bit shocked, but for the most part, feeling peace about the situation. And so what I mean is I subbed at one of the local middle schools in my area, and I was only there for half a day. And my first class for the day was happened to be an eighth grade class. And the teacher was still there before I like came into to take her place. And so she had given them an assignment that they needed to work on while I was there during that period. And so, I take over, and I'm kind of walking around, and, there's two tables that are like really deep into the assignment. They're focused on what they're doing. There's some chit chatting, but like they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. There's another group, um, happened to be all boys. There's like 30 something kids in this class and like only four boys. And, they're kind of joking around, but like I could get them to kind of do some work. And then I had a group of girls who I can honestly say that I texted my husband and said, I pray and I will do everything within my might to not have my daughter grow up to be like these girls. And that might not be the most loving or Christian thing, but it was rough. So I had this table of girls who literally refused to do the assignment, wouldn't even start it or attempt it. And I asked them several times. I would walk around, can you work on your assignment? If they were doing something else, like, hey, I'm fine if you do that, but do your assignment first. Refused, completely refused. Instead, they straightened their hair with a straightening iron. They put makeup on. They watched videos on YouTube, and other things. And I know what you're thinking, like, man, Kara, you had the really poor classroom management. But by this point, it was clear that anything else that I was going to do would probably have created an even more hostile environment. And so I kind of navigated it in the best way that I could. Like, y'all, I asked them several times, and at some point, it's out of my control. I cannot make them do this assignment. It is on them. And so I had to let it go. But through this, there were conversations that were going on when I would ask them. And there was arguments about doing this or doing that, and how I was acting as a substitute teacher, and like, why couldn't I be cool like the regular teacher? And I said, it's completely fine that that teacher does this thing this way, but this is how I'm going to do it. Like, I have to walk out of this classroom with integrity and making sure that I did things based off of my morals and my values. And like, at the end of the day, I have to answer to that. And what happens if an admin walks in and you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing? That's on me. And then I don't get to come back and be a substitute teacher. They honestly didn't have any empathy or care for that. But it was just this moment of like, when we get in these situations, and I think this can happen for a lot of us during the holidays, when we're around difficult people, when we're around people who, gosh, they just like get under our skin. We want to be able to control the situation. We want to be able to like change them, to make them see it the way that you want to see it. And we end up compromising our peace. We end up compromising our mental and emotional energy in these situations. And so I use this as an example of how we can navigate the holidays with this holy headspace. And the first thing, and I think the most important thing, is really understanding in these situations, understanding what your locus of control is. And maybe you've never heard of locus of control, but locus of control refers to the degree to which individuals believe they have agency or control and influence over their lives. And this concept of locus of control was developed by Julian Rotter. And so it's just this idea of what you have control over, what you believe you have control over. And for a lot of us, we probably believe we have control over a lot of things, but really and truly, we don't. And we can look to the Catechism of the Catholic Church, number 1731. It says, freedom is the power rooted in reason and will to act or not to act, to do this or that, and so to perform deliberate actions on one's own responsibility. By free will, one shapes one's own life. So the Catechism of the Catholic Church encourages us to develop and to have what we're going to call this internal locus of control. So to understand what an internal locus of control is, you have to know what an external locus of control. So external locus of control means that a person believes that outside circumstances, other people, luck or fate have control over what happens to them, their lives, and their future. They may feel less in control. They're reactive to situations. They feel like they're powerless, and they tend to attribute successes and failures to outside forces, to things around them. Now, in contrast, having an internal locus of control, this person thinks that their thoughts, their choices, and their efforts can shape and influence their lives and their future. They know what they can change, and they focus their energy towards making the difference there. They can also acknowledge what they can't change, and they accept and surrender those things. They tend to be mentally healthier, feel more confident and motivated, and take responsibility for their actions. And having an internal locus of control is foundational to developing personal moral authority. So, what does internal locus of control look like compared to external locus of control? So, what is within your control? The things that are within your own control are your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, your decisions, your gifts, and your values. One more time. What is in your control is your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, your decisions, your gifts, and your values. In contrast, the things that are outside of your locus control are others' thoughts, others' emotions, others' actions, others' decisions, others' gifts, and others' values. So we have to know that the only things in these situations that we can control are our own thoughts, our own emotions, our own actions, our own decisions, our own gifts and values. And that can be really, really hard. Because we want to be able to control other people's thoughts. We want to be able to control other people's emotions. But we also, when we do not understand what is within our internal locus of control, we believe that other people's thoughts, other people's emotions, other people's actions control our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions. And that is not true. We jump over our own boundaries when we think other people's actions cause us to feel a certain way. When the reality is that it is your own thoughts about their actions that is making you feel that particular emotion. Right? And so this is important because this helps us understand that these boundaries that we want to have start internally. And it starts with understanding the things that you can control, which are only your own things, right? You cannot control other people's thoughts, emotions, actions, any of that. And so this is really important because what this allows us to do is that we can establish boundaries. We can create this holy headspace because we are not being bombarded. Our minds are not filled with the noise of, well, Aunt so and so said this and it made me act this way, and on and on and on. No, 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 no. This is understanding that Aunt so and so is going to do what Aunt so and so is going to do, but you have a choice in how you react and the things that you think, the way that you feel, and the things that you do based off of whatever it is that she said or did. So you have a choice. This is where you can have power. This is where you can have control. And this is how you can reclaim your peace during the holiday season. And so all of this is crucial to know because it helps us to establish boundaries. It helps us to clarify our responsibilities, understanding what's within your own locus of control and understanding what's within somebody else's locus of control. It allows you to name a boundary, right? It's understanding that you know where your limit is and you can recognize when a boundary has been crossed and understand that a boundary is there to protect you and that you're not responsible. You're not there to rescue, to fix, or to change somebody else. And you're also not there to take responsibility for them or from them. It also helps you detach from outcomes, right? You don't have to carry the weight of what somebody else is going through because it's really not yours to own. And it helps you manage your empathy, right? It helps you to stay connected and compassionate without absorbing somebody else's emotional state. And it allows you to be more objective and honestly more empathetic instead of trying to take on their emotional baggage or whatever. It really allows you to clearly know where your empathy gets to and then where their responsibility takes place, right? You can empathize without having to fix, without having to rescue. And then it allows you to take ownership of your own things. It allows you to understand, again, what is within your control and be able to navigate that and not feel like you have to completely solve everybody else's problems or everybody else's situation. And so, this is how this can help you really stay healthy throughout this holiday season because you're not going to give away your mental and emotional energy to things that are really out of your control, right? It allows you to really be able to have those healthy boundaries, and it allows you to just not be overwhelmed, not feel like you're a victim to everybody else's situation or whatever everybody else is going through. So I hope that makes sense, right? So I'm just going to give you a quick little example, right? So I want you to think about a recent time or that you struggled to set or maintain boundaries with someone. And you can think about past holiday situations. When has this ever come up? Right? So I'm going to give you an example that somebody that I have worked with gave me. So their mother-in-law texted them to confirm details about the weekend. And it really irritated this person because they had just talked on the phone about it. Like, why can't this person remember that we just talked about this? Why are we getting a text? Right? And this person also feels like part of this is that her mother-in-law thinks that they never spend enough time with them when in reality that the person, the client really believes that they try their hardest. They try so hard to make sure that they see everyone, during the weekend or on the holidays, right? Like they're the ones who are traveling. They're the ones who are going to all the places and making all the stops. And when you take this and you look at it, okay, so what is outside of this person's of control? What is outside of this person's control? Well, it's really her thoughts or her emotions to whatever she believes her mother-in-law thinks about how much time is spent where, right? She cannot control if her mother-in-law believes or acts or says things that, oh, well, you spend more time with this side of the family and not enough time with us, and all of those things. That's outside of her control. She cannot control what her mother-in-law is thinking or her behavior or her emotions. So what she can control are these feelings of being irritated. These feelings of like almost this martyrdom, like, God, look at me, woe is me. I do all of these things, right? And so we can start to look at these different situations. We can start to kind of write out these past situations that have maybe happened to us at certain holidays, like the people who tend to always be a trigger, and understand, okay, well, what is it that they're saying? What is it that they're doing that's a trigger? And understand that it's a trigger for us because we have a particular thought about whatever that situation is, whatever it is they said, whatever it is they did. And then that thought is what produces our particular emotion. And then we behave based off of whatever the emotion is. So if we can start to look at this and use kind of that mind mapping tool that we've used in the past, when we're talking about creating this holy headspace, we can really start to see that, okay, this person is a trigger, and this is what I have thought in the past, and start to say, okay, how could I handle this differently? What could I do differently? What could I think differently in this situation? How can I navigate the situation in a different way than I have in the past? And understand that, God, as much as you want to avoid that conversation, as much as you want that person to change or not do this or that thing, you have no control over that. But you can control and you can choose how you're going to respond. And that allows you to not be a victim to your emotions, to be a victim to other people's circumstances, and it's going to allow you to keep your peace during the holiday season. So take some time this week and maybe write out some of these situations that have happened in the past, and really be able to, put on your God glasses and see it from that different perspective. Really analyze, okay, what is within my locus of control? Again, your own thoughts, your own emotions, your own actions, your own decisions, your own morals, your own values, your own gifts. And what is outside of my locus control? Circumstances, other people's thoughts, other people's emotions, all of those things. And when you can start to see that, you can really understand and really work on creating this holy headspace. And I promise, if you take some time to do this, you're going to show up differently. You're going to be a different person navigating the holidays this year. You're gonna have really so much mental and emotional peace, as well as fortitude to navigate kind of the chaos that comes with that. And so that's like, this situation that happened with subbing. It was a matter of, I can't make these girls do this work. I can't be responsible for whatever's going to happen when they have to turn this assignment in. I could have encouraged them. I could do the things that I felt like I had control over, which was my own thoughts, my own emotions, my own actions. And I acted from that place. And so I can walk away from that situation feeling peace and knowing like, hey, I stuck within my own integrity. I stuck within my own morals and values, instead of really falling into manipulation or, really letting them kind of bully me around and try to fit into whatever this cool teacher persona was. But understanding at some point that division of control was split. And I stayed within my locus of control, and I could walk away from that situation. I could walk away from the end of that day and make a decision from there, and feel at peace with the way that I handled it, and know that, again, I cannot control other people's actions, the things they say, the things they do, the things they think. And I think that this is a really important lesson as we start to get into the holidays, because I do think that it allows us to set some healthy boundaries and gives us tools to be able to stick with those boundaries. So thank you for joining me on this little detour from what I actually had planned, but I thought it was just so important to kind of talk through, to give you some tools because my prayer for you is to really be able to have peace during the holidays, to not feel the overwhelm, to not feel the stress and maybe the triggers that come with being in some of these social situations with family and friends, but really being able to focus on what you can control, hold on to your peace, and really be able to enjoy the holiday season. So thanks again for spending some time with me this week. I'm so excited about next week as we really get into talking about this idea of writing the next chapter of your sacred story. Y'all, I'm really, really so excited about it and what that's going to look like to share that with you. But I hope you have a beautiful and blessed week. I have, praying for anyone who's traveling over the upcoming holidays. I know some people will begin traveling this weekend for the Thanksgiving holiday. I pray for safe travels. I pray for peace and for a time of connection and gratitude as we go through the holiday season. And we'll talk soon. Bye.